Yo, what's good, guys? It is your host, AG Samurai here, and welcome to the channel. Today I'm here to bring you guys on our part 2, What If Asta was Fujitora's Reincarnation, Part 4. Thank you all so much for tuning into this What If, and yeah, let's get it. But before we do, I do want to let you guys know a little bit of an announcement. I want to apologize for not posting last week. This part was supposed to come out last week, but the thing was, me and my family ran into some pretty stressful and big news to the point where I just couldn't be posting in the environment. And yeah, we just needed some time to cool down. Luckily, things have now fully blown over. The situation is getting resolved, and now everything is going pretty well. So now I'm back to uploading. Another thing is that I might have to be changing my schedule. I already like teased this a little bit earlier, but my uploading schedule will be changed. Instead of trying to post like every single day, I'll be making a few changes. I don't know exactly what changes are yet. It's depending on how I feel like, really, because I make these videos for my own personal enjoyment, but also if you guys enjoy it as well, I also make it for you guys. But honestly, it depends. So hopefully you guys will be prepared for the next following announcements that involve this, but don't worry, you guys don't have to worry about it right now. But besides this, guys, I believe I blabbered on long enough with this announcement. This intro has taken way too long anyway. It's already hit the 1 minute mark, so why don't we just get started with this video. So thank you all so much, and let's begin.
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do?
Alright guys, let's begin this what if. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. Be aware that there will be background noises and also there will be some stuttering. But if you guys can ignore that and just focus on the story, I would really appreciate it. And it will make the video much more enjoyable. So besides that, let's begin. So we currently start off this what if with Asta as he's currently walking down the streets of, well, the Clover Kingdom. And as he does, he'll be approached by Noel, Yuno, Klaus, and Mimosa. As they currently were asking Asta if he was alright. No, I'm fine. I just needed a moment to clear my head. Asta would say this as he returned back to his natural and mature tone. As they would nod, now feeling relaxed that Asta was alright. This is when, of course, Noel began to try to berate Asta for acting the way he is, but also would shake his head, telling her that he regrets nothing that he did. Although he regrets that, how he acted and just the way how he did it, he doesn't regret the actions that he took. After all, Noel was his friend and he was going to protect her. And of course, saying that Noel blushes and everything, but this is when, as they were enjoying their moment, this is when they would then hear it, an explosion happening. The capital was under attack. Instantly at this point, Asta would then use his observation hotkey as he begins to sense around the area, and as he does, he senses multiple movements from all different angles. As Asta was wondering what was going on, this is when he then picks up on the strongest signature that was nearby, as he, using his enhanced senses, was able to pick up on Radi's signature. As currently right now, he was approaching a young little girl. Instantly at this point, Asta's eyes harden, as this is when he ends up lifting up the weight of himself by a lot, as he's now as light as a feather. And as he does, he ends up dashing instantly using the Rokushiki and using Soru to teleport over there. As the rest of the Black Bulls and the Golden Dawn are doing nothing but watching in shock, as 1 minute Asta was there, the next minute he was gone. Where did he go? At this point, Yuno ends up jumping into action as well, as he was not going to be left behind by his brother, and Klaus ends up taking charge, telling them that now was not the time and that they need to help out the civilians. As this is where we now turn to when Asta arrives to Radi's location. Now at this point, we'll see Radius was walking towards the little girl, telling her that no one was going to save her and that this was it. However, just as he was about to reach for her, this is when suddenly his hand would then be cut off. What? He shouts as he ends up screaming out in agony and in pain. And as he does, he ends up getting blown back by a ginormous force. As he ends up looking down, only to see that he crashed into a wall. At this point, he doesn't feel anything as his adrenaline was kicking in, so that way he doesn't feel any pain, but also due to the fact that he was lightheaded and he was losing a lot of blood. The impact of him hitting the back of a wall has caused some of his bones to break and also caused him to start bleeding out a lot. As Radius will be there in a daze, wondering what the heck just happened, this is when suddenly he ends up seeing Asta right in front of him, and right beside him would be the little girl who currently right now was wondering what was happening as well. And to say that Asta was angry would be an understatement, as the boy was staring at Radius with a bloodlust that only Radius himself can feel. What is he? At this, Radius tries to say something, but he was too weak to respond, as this is when Asta would then pick up the little girl, asking her if she was alright. She would nod her head, telling Asta that she was fine and that she was thankful for him, for him rescuing her. To which Asta would just shake his head, telling her she wanted to go back to her parents. When the girl responded yes, he ended up taking her to her parents, as using his, devil fruit ability, he was able to lift up the way of themselves and allow them to teleport much faster to her parents, leaving Rades there, as the man slowly but surely ends up dying off. As Rades would be there, dying off, this is when suddenly Voltos, who currently right now was hiding on top of a pile of a bunch of dead bodies, would also begin to see Voltos and would be in shock. It happened so fast I couldn't even react, he would say. However, just as he says this, you then sense a presence behind him. As he does, he turns around and sees Asta staring at him. Looks like there was more of you. I'm beginning to get a little bit rusty, Asta would say, as Voltos would be shaken up by this. He came back so fast. How I don't sense any mana within him. Voltos was trying to get a read on how powerful this guy was, but he could already tell this guy must have been so crazy powerful, as he's obviously hiding his mana. As he begins to back away, telling Asta to not take another step, Asta would do so without any hesitation. Fine, you asked for this. At this, Voltos would then use his power as he ends up activating his spatial magic, and as he does, multiple members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun end up appearing. These were reinforcements. As they end up appearing, each one of them would turn to Asta as they start staring him down. Really? And this is what you call this on? This guy doesn't even have any magic, they'll be saying as they begin to make fun of Asta, mocking him, taunting him, trying to get a reaction out of him. But Asta was calm, deadly calm. So each one of you were involved in this incident, correct? Asta would say. And as he does, Voltos was the only one to was able to pick on what he was saying. The way that his voice had lost any bit of mercy or any bit of emotion, as Asta's eyes were completely void of any light. He's gonna kill us. That was Voltos' internal mind telling him, as his instincts were screaming at him to run away from this monster. As the rest of the members of the Anime Sun was not paying attention, they all bum rush him, as they thought that attacking him head first would do something, but that was their last mistake. As all it took was one swing from Asta's wooden sword. Nothing happened at first, as the bodies were still approaching him, but as they do, this was something that would then be blown back and cut to shreds by an invisible force, as they'd be slammed into the wall, with them being completely cut up to nothing. As Voltos will be the only one currently still conscious. However, at this point, he already lost his arm and a leg, and currently right now, he was literally on the verge of dying out right now. You monster, Voltos would say, as he would try doing one last futile attempt to activate his magic so that he can get away from here, but it was already too late. As Asta would point his wooden sword to him, Voltos, all he could see was the wooden sword slashing down just slightly, and before he knew it, he was dead. Asta would be staring down at the destruction he caused and not show any bit of mercy, which by the way, yeah, Asta does end up, killing his element. I can't talk. Asta does end up killing his enemies, but the reason for this one is because of the fact, the reason for this one, I believe, is because of the fact that, let's be honest here, in the world of One Piece, people are brutal. Sure, you may not notice it because of the way the art style is drawn and everything, but One Piece is very brutal. So of course you're gonna have to expect them to at least kill some people in there. So I would say that even though Fujitora does not like doing it, he knows that he needs to do it sometimes. As he looks down at all the bodies, he then shakes his head, wiping away the blood from his wooden sword. As just as he does this is when suddenly Noelle would then run over. Asta, finally, I found. As she would then, begin to be happy seeing Asta, she would stop and she would see the carnage that happened. She would be green in the face as she has to hold back the urge to vomit at the sight, as Asta was staring down at all of them before turning to her. Listen, right now is not the time to focus on them, alright? I already took care of them. At this point, she would then begin to realize it as the influx of mana that was fueling the rest of these soldiers had beginning to leave, as many of them began to fall down, many of them began to collapse. Honestly, the invasion was already over. As she began to realize that Asta had just taken care of the main problem, she'll smile, actually happy, but then she would then begin to scold Asta for heading off by himself, to which Asta would just chuckle at. And just as he does, this is when suddenly we'll then see two people arriving, as this will be Leopold and Fuegoleon. As Fuegoleon would arrive, he would see the scene in front of him, and he would be in shock about all that happened. This boy, is he really just a commoner? Heck, does he really have no magic? As right now, Figolian could sense a drop in Asta, and he was able to accomplish all of this. It was amazing. As he wondered exactly how strong Asta was, and if possible, was it possible that he was stronger than him? This one suddenly Asta wouldn't feel it. A portal would then suddenly open up underneath Fujitora just as he took in another step. And as Fujitora would look at the portal, he would then be sucked in by the force. However, right before he fully got sucked in, this is when suddenly Asta would then reach out and then grab him by the arm and drag him out of the portal as quickly as possible. However, as he does, this is when suddenly a portal would then open underneath Asta, and before Asta could even react, he was dragged in there as well. Dang it! And as he does, he throws Fujitora away to Leopold and Noel, causing the two to have no choice but to catch him. And as they do, they'll see Asta get dragged in as he ends up looking down, preparing for the battle up ahead. As this is when the last thing we end up hearing from the Clover Kingdom would be Noel screaming for Asta. Back with Asta, you'll see him appear in this weird, dim-lighted area. He was in a cave. And right now, he was currently confused as he was looking at everything that was happening in front of him. Where am I? As Asta will look around, he will see this weird statue as he begins to memorize it thanks to his eyes. But as he does, this one suddenly he ends up turning around and seeing it. He will see Licht. Or Patri, the leader of the Adamantite Sun, as he will be staring down at Asta. You caused many great deal of problems to my organization. You can no longer be left to live. As Licht would say this, in a flash, a light spear would then be created as they would try to stab into Asta, trying to kill him instantly. However, unfortunately for Licht, Asta was way faster than him. Quicker than Licht can even react, Asta would swing his wooden sword, and they would end up destroying the light sword in an instant. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to be way quicker than that. Besides, you're still gonna have to pay for the crimes that you committed, attacking innocent lives. As just as he says this, Asta would then get into a stance, as Licht would then feel pressure then set upon him. Faster than Licht can even react, this is when Asta would then appear behind him, and as he does, the wooden sword would have actually slashed Licht across the chest, causing the man to have a ginormous gash on his chest. Dang it! Licht would shout, as he would look down at his body and he couldn't believe it. He landed a cut on him. How? However, just as he does this, his senses will then finally begin to keep track of Asta, as he ends up dodging out of the way of a slash that was going for his head. At this point, Asta will be looking at Licht as Licht will be trying to throw a light spear at him, but Asta would block. Come on, you will have to pay for your crimes. At this point, Licht couldn't do anything, as right now it was currently a game of cat and mouse, as Licht will be trying to get away from Asta, with Asta appearing and disappearing each moment where Licht ends up moving, as Licht couldn't lose Asta no matter how hard he tried. As the two would be appearing and disappearing in different locations, this is when suddenly Licht ends up going a little bit too slow, as he ends up seeing Asta appear right above him. No! And as he does, this is when suddenly he ends up feeling pressure once again upon himself, but also on the blade that Asta was wielding, the wooden sword. As he will look at the sword coming down on him, this is when Licht would then realize, if he were to get hit by that sword, he will die. The pressure that was coming off of it was dangerous, so dangerous that even Licht himself did not want to touch it. And as he does, he has no choice, as forcing his body legit, like he had to legit force down the instincts and everything else. He moved his body as it was extremely heavy and it was hard to do so, but he was able to move it slightly to avoid the attack. So luckily his body was not legit cut in half by the attack, but unfortunately his arm wasn't so lucky. It didn't get hit, it didn't get completely hit by the blade as it didn't get cut, but all he did was touched it a little bit. Like it's just a small little tap on the side. But as he does, that's when Licht felt it. His muscles rupture on that arm as he felt bones cracking, and he would be screaming in pain as he had no choice but to use all his might to try to escape. No, I had to get away from him. As also be staring down at Licht, surprised that he was even able to dodge the attack, he would try to stop him from escaping. And as he does, this is when suddenly a time bubble would then appear in front of Licht. No! Licht would then say as he once again flashes and disappears completely, leaving not a single trace of him behind. Also will look down for a few seconds, getting pissed off, as this one suddenly ends up hearing the voice of Julius. It looks like I arrived a little bit too late. At this, Asta would turn around to see Julius, the first Wizard King. Well, not the first, the Wizard King, as he would be there looking down and upset about the fact that he let Licht escape. But he would then be smiling at Asta. That was very an impressive feat. You truly are amazing, Asta, Julius would say. As Asta would be staring down at him, he would be wondering exactly where was he during this entire time. After all, this was his kingdom, yet he failed to protect it. It didn't make sense to Asta, and honestly, he felt a generous amount of suspicions towards Julius, but he had to hold it in. After using his observation haki to make sure that Julius wasn't hiding any ill intent towards him, he decides to calm down for now, telling Julius that, well, it was nothing really. As after this, Julius then asked Asta if he needed a ride back, to which Asta would obviously nod his head. As with a single tap on his shoulder, Julius and Asta would then teleport back to the Clover Kingdom. As we now turn back to the Clover Kingdom, we will see everyone there as Fujitora, Noel, and Leopold were trying to explain the events that had transpired. The captains were of course sent flying as they needed to legit work together to return back to the Clover Kingdom, but as they returned, they will see that the mess had already been cleared up. And as they do, Fujitora and Noel and Leopold would try to explain to them everything that happened while they were gone. And after hearing Asta's capturing, many of the Magic Knights honestly, well, I'm not going to lie to you, many of them did not care. In fact, some of the royals were actually happy that the commoner was gone, as this will probably teach many others to learn their place. But before they could really go any further, this one suddenly ended up hearing the voice of Julius. Well, it's a good thing that everyone's here now. As soon as Julius's voice was heard, everyone would turn around as they'll see Julius and Asta there. And instantly seeing Asta, Noel and Mimosa would rush over to him, as well as Klaus and Yuno, as we began to ask him if everything was alright and he was okay, but Asta would shake his head, telling them that everything was fine. So after that, everything would then calm down as Asta would send the Wizard King one look, as both of them would send each other a nod before Asta would then head off, telling the Wizard King that he already gave him the report. After this, many of the Magic Knights wanted to, scream at Asta for being disrespectful to the Wizard King, or at least in their opinion, he was being disrespectful. But the Wizard King would then calm them down. No, it's fine. He did a great service to the kingdom, and he gave us intel on the enemy. As this is when he begins to explain about the Eye of the Midnight Sun as well as their leader, and how they're targeting the Clover Kingdom. Now, this will cause many of them to actually stay on their toes, as they realized that the situation was getting serious. Just like that, they were ready to head off after the Wizard King had announced this. However, right before they head off, this is when the Wizard King would then give them one last piece of information. Their leader. I was only able to get a glimpse of him. His speed was so powerful that he even outsped my own spell. As hearing this will put everyone on edge. The enemy was so powerful to dodge an attack from the Wizard King, it was almost unheard of. However, this is when he would then drop a bomb on all of them, as he then tells them the final parting words. However, Asta was able to land a damaging blow on the enemy, and give him quite a permanent injury. At this, everyone actually gasped in shock, as the Wizard King would then leave, leaving them with this small bit of information, hopefully to inspire them to get stronger. As with this, we can now move forward. Wow, if you guys hear me taking small pauses because I'm trying to collect my breath, trust me, these videos take up a lot of oxygen. As we now turn back to the Black Bulls, as Asta was currently heading back home, and along the way we will see Noel as well as Charmy, who apparently was at the Clover Kingdom, not that Asta knew. As they were currently making their way back, this is when they then encounter Mimosa, Klaus, and Yuno, as they were also heading back to their own squads. I guess you're heading back home, are you? At this point, Yuno says nothing before unleashing a generous wind arrow. Asta, let's see how powerful I became. At this, Asta understood what Yuno wanted to do as he nods his head, as Yuno would then launch a powerful wind blast towards him. Now, Yuno, of course, had gained the same power up just like in canon, as he unlocked the wind spirit and was able to beat the witch. However, even with that was not enough, as before Yuno's attack can even get a few feet within distance of Asta, it was cut up in an instant, destroying it and leaving ginormous bursts of wind around the entire area. As the rest of the Golden Dawn had to legit hold themselves from being sent flying, as well as the rest of the Black Bulls, as they had to hold on to Asta from being sent flying. Yuno would be there watching on in shock before nodding his head. I guess I still have a long way to go. But don't think for a second that means I'm going to let you win. At this, Asta chuckles, telling Yuno that he'll be waiting for the day that Yuno actually gives him a challenge, in a teasing manner of course, but Yuno takes it serious. As Asta then put away his wooden sword, however as he does, he then realizes something. I guess the fight from today had put enough pressure on it. As Asta would look down, he would see that the wooden blade that he'd been carrying around had finally sustained some damage. It was understandable. He had to deflect a lot of those light spears that were pretty fast. He also had to keep up with the Eye of the Midnight Sun. He had to put a large amount of gravity on his wooden sword. And honestly, it's been worn out. Like he's done so much with it to the point where now it's time for its retirement. As Asta would look down at it before nodding his head, he would then say farewell to Yuno, just as Noel was done, scolding him for everything that he had done. As after this, Asta would then head off, and as he does, we would then turn our attention to Yuno. As Yuno would see Asta then head off, he would then begin to, hear a gasp as he ended up looking to the side to see the wind spirit. That human, he blocked an attack from a spirit? She would say as she couldn't believe what she had just seen. A spirit's attack was very powerful. And honestly, it's not something some regular human is just able to brush aside like it's nothing. Yet Asta was able to do so. Yep, that's my brother, as well as my rival. Which is why you and me are going to surpass him, Belle. As the spirit would hear this, she could do nothing more but nod her head, as both Yuno and her would stare at Asta as he heads off. So we now time skip to when Asta arrives back at the Black Bulls, as after this they have to tell Yami about everything that happened back then. And honestly, Yami was proud of them. He told them that they all did a good job, and especially Asta. And flashing forward a few days, we will see that the Wizard King ends up giving the Black Bulls a few new stars, as this will cause the Black Bulls to celebrate, begin to party and everything. But Asta was not part of the celebration, as right now he was sending away an old weapon of his. As we end up moving forward, we will see Asta as he ends up walking down, and he ends up looking at this ginormous tree. Now, this was a training area that Asta would be for almost every single day since his stay in the Black Bulls, and as he does, he would then pull out the wooden sword that has been carrying along with him for a very long time. Now, at this point, Asta could already see it as it was pretty worn out. Even with armament hockey, that blade couldn't sustain too much. And as he will look down at the blade, he nods his head, thanking it over and over again for everything it's done. Now you may rest in peace. As with this, Asta would then suddenly end up stabbing the blade full force into the ground. And as he does, he would then put a small bit of dirt on it, putting it to rest, as this was like its weapons, like it was a little bit of a gravesite. And it was either this or legit you swinging the weapon at full power and letting it break. So with that, Asta had said goodbye to his wooden sword. And with this, he now realized that he needed to find a new weapon to fight with. And while Asta was good with the hands, I do want to let you know, he was good with the hands. He knew that that was not going to be a suitable way to fight for too long. So with that, Asta would then decide that it was time for him to head back to the Black Bulls. However, just as Asta was walking back, this one suddenly he ended up smelling the smoke in the air as he ends up turning to the side to see Yami, as he was currently leaning up behind a tree as he's seen Asta did what he just did. Wow. I have to admit, I didn't expect the wooden sword to last that long, but I guess its time came, huh? Asta says nothing as he stares down at Yami, and as this, Yami ends up walking up to Asta. When I first saw it, I saw it had a generous resemblance to the katana I had. As Yami would take another step and get closer to Asta, this one suddenly Asta wouldn't realize that Yami was carrying something. Kid, I have to admit, I've been watching you for a while. Your training, your power, and I respect it, but I have to admit, you're foolish for limiting yourself with the weapons that you had. That wooden sword, although it lasted long, it was holding you back quite a lot. The time for you using a stick for battle is long past, kid. It's time for you to truly use a weapon, like a man. At this, Yami would then suddenly toss Asta something, and Asta was able to see it perfectly, even though it was in the dead of night. A jet black sheath with a katana in it was currently being thrown towards Asta, as Asta on pure instinct alone would catch it before putting it down to his side. At this, Asta would be staring down at the katana in shock, as Yami begins to walk past him. Listen, I'm not into that mopey mumbo jumbo or whatever, alright? And I don't give gifts often, so you better take care of it, or else you're dead. As Yami would say this, he would then walk off, leaving Asta alone, as he would be there staring down at his newly branded katana. Asta would then release it out of his sheath as he would stare at it. It was completely black, and it was shining in the dead of night. As Asta would stare at it, he would then suddenly end up tensing up his muscles as he ends up staring at a nearby tree. Not the tree where he buried the bamboo sword, no. He was staring at a different tree as he ended up slashing down only slightly, but the force from his attack was enough to cut the tree and multiple others behind it in half in an instant. Asta would look down at the blade as he realized that this blade could definitely handle a ginormous amount of hits. Combine that with some haki, this blade was one of a kind. As he would stare down at it, he would then put it back into a sheath. I guess he was right. I have been limiting myself, he would say. As he looks at it, Asta would then make an oath, as he decides from now on he would try giving it all he got. So if you guys want a little bit of context, I can explain it to you. So Asta, he went all out, but not exactly how you think it is. For example, if Asta wanted to, he could have made it to where he went so powerful that the wooden sword would have broken under the pressure. But the thing is, Asta did not want that. He went all out, but only limiting himself to the limit that the wooden sword could handle. Which is why that as soon as Asta just started putting too much pressure onto it, it began to break and get battered up and beaten. Which is why he had to, bury it while he still can. So now that Asta doesn't have that, that means he can now truly go all out and doesn't have to face the repercussions. So with this, Asta can now help more people out, and now he can actually fight at full strength without the thought of actually harming his own weapon. So with this, Asta ends up looking up into the night skies. This is where we now fade to black. For the past following days, Asta would train with his newly minted katana, and honestly, if you thought the training that Asta did before was brutal, and all the damage he caused with just a simple wooden sword was enough, no, the way that Asta was fighting, it got to the point where the entire base was shaking. Legit, Asta had woken up Yami multiple times just by a small power swing. It caused many of the Black Bulls to actually be surprised by Asta's new power, with many of them actually asking him how he got the sword, to which Asta just simply said that he got it from his captain, which caused many of the Black Bulls to be surprised because Yami doesn't give gifts to nobody, regardless. So the fact that he got a gift for Asta really shows something. However, after that, many of them got punished, as of course many of them actually asked Yami for gifts, but Yami did not give them a single thing. Oh yeah, and he also tried, punishing Asta, but Asta just took it all with great stride and just letting out mature chuckles, pissing off Yami even more. As we now move forward to a certain day. So right now, you'll see Asta currently right now far away from the Black Bull's base, as he had been ordered by the entire group to move his training even further. Because the amount of damage Asta was causing was enough to the point where it was bothering even them. And that's saying a lot. However, we will now move forward from that as we see Asta currently in the forest, thinking up on new moves for himself. Right now, he had a move in mind, as right now he was trying to concentrate on doing it. However, before he can go any further, this is when suddenly he ends up hearing a twig snap in a familiar presence. I know you're there, Finro. At this, we would then hear Finro appearing as he ends up shaking a little bit from the fact that Asta knew where he was, but this is when he shakes his head before telling Asta what he wanted to do. Pretty much, he wanted to go to a mixer and wanted to bring Asta along. Now, Asta hearing this would give Finro a kind of awkward smile, as he tells Finro that he wasn't into all of that. However, Finro would then shake his head, telling Asta that he needed to go, and this and that, trying to give Asta reasons, but also would try to decline him as politely as possible. Unfortunately, Finro was very stubborn and very persistent, to the point where Asta couldn't do nothing more but sigh, but eventually agreed to go along with him. So this is where we now move forward. So finally, we arrived to when Asta, as well as Finro and Luck, would arrive at the mixer, and Noelle being there to spy on Asta, because, she's stalking him and, has an obsession with him. But moving on. As currently right now, they will be right there with, Rebecca and her two friends, and so far, things were going pretty awkwardly. Before eventually they started to go smoothly, thanks to Finro, and also thanks to Luck, as the girls begin to like them, but Asta and Rebecca are completely silent. As Asta was there sipping some tea, while Rebecca was just there looking blatantly at everything that was happening around the bar. However, before things can go any further, this is when suddenly a man would then appear, as he seems quite drunk. He would then begin to mock Rebecca, telling her that she was so desperate for a man that she went to some magic nights. As this is when suddenly he ends up trying to reach for her, telling her if she wants a man, then she can have him. However, this is when suddenly, before he can do anything, an invisible force would then stop him. What? I believe that's quite enough, gentlemen. At this, you would then see Asta end up standing up, as the pressure that Asta was exerting legit forced his body to stop moving. What the heck are you doing to me? At this, Asta would then smile at the man, before suddenly the man would then see nothing more but darkness, as he would be knocked unconscious. Oh, nothing, just putting you to rest. At this, everyone who just saw that would be surprised, as they didn't even see Asta move. They just saw the man black out right there. I was also then carry the man over his shoulder, which was quite hilarious because this guy was legit ginormous, yet Asta was just carrying like he was nothing. As this is when he then sends everyone a smile, telling them that he apologized for the interruption, further taking the guy out back. And as he does, Rebecca will then follow him along, as he begins to apologize to Asta, but Asta shakes his head, telling her that it was fine. No, you deserve much better than this. After hearing this, Rebecca would be, of course, actually like flustered by the comment, as this is when her and Asta then begin to get to talking, as Asta would then drop off the guy right there next to the bar. And as he does, this is when, of course, Finral and Luck, as well as the rest of the girls, will then walk out. As this is when, of course, Finral will try like talking to the girls, but already at this point, they had lost interest. As after a while, Finral just sighs as he was ready to go home. So he ends up opening a portal, calling Luck over. As just as he was about to tell Asta to come along with them, Asta had actually decided to walk the rest of the girls back home, to which they gladly accepted. So yeah, Finral once again striked out. And of course, while doing so, Noah would also follow, Asta, because she didn't like the idea with all these females being near him. So of course she would follow along. As after this, we would not turn to when finally, after dropping off all the girls, Asta would be there left alone with Rebecca, as Rebecca would actually invite Asta over to her house, telling him about all her siblings and everything, as during the time that they were traveling, she actually, and both Asta and Rebecca showed that they have quite a lot of things in common. And this will cause Rebecca to have an interest in Asta, so she of course wanted to get to know him better. Now Asta was okay with this, as he tells her that she would gladly enjoy meeting up with her siblings, so due to this, she would then thank Asta for the night as she ends up heading back home, while Asta is just there in the snow. Noelle, I know you're there. I also would say this as Noelle then, jump out actually in shock, as she would try to make up an excuse about why she was here, but Asta just shakes his head, walking over to her before suddenly she ends up feeling a generous amount of warmth, as Asta had covered her in a coat that he was wearing, telling her that it was a bad idea to follow him in such cold weathers. As Noelle would be, blushing about everything, this one suddenly she would then begin to feel weightless, as Asta would then carry her up in princess style before telling her that it was time for them to go back home. Noelle in the daze would nod her head, as this is when Asta would then suddenly kick off the ground using, Rokushiki, as he ends up dashing off back to the Black Bull's base, with Noelle doing nothing more but just holding on to him while blushing ginormously. As this is where we now end up turning our attention to elsewhere. As we now turn our attention to Licht, as right now he was being worked on by multiple healing mages, as currently right now they were working their hardest as they could for their leader, as the muscles and the damage that he had taken in was enough that it actually damaged like his entire arm. Now at this point, as they were working on him, this is when they realized that due to the tremendous amount of damage that was done to him, he would have severe problems with his arm. So that means like his arm is not going to exactly react like normally. He's going to pretty much be similar to how Doctor Strange was. Like, how his arm shakes sometimes when he's trying to concentrate? That's how it's going to be for Licht. As Licht would be there as he's currently right now trying to handle the pain. As they try to ease the pain as possible, Licht will be screaming in his mind, cursing out Asta over and over again, telling him that he will get his revenge. As just as he says that, we will then see in a different direction, as we see two men currently making their way to a small village. As this is where we're going to be cutting off and ending this part to the what if. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. Yeah guys, this was a crazy ride. Sorry I wasn't able to post last week as I already explained it, but yeah, I had some things to take care of. And another thing guys, I'm so sorry of my what if, if I stuttered too much in this one, or if you guys see me take a long pause. Your boy during mid times recording, I had to run and do stuff, do a lot of things. But now that I was finally able to finish here, I'm very glad, as yeah, I'm just really glad I got a part out. So thank you guys so much for your support. Hopefully you guys will continue to do so. Comment down below anything you feel like. And honestly, yeah, this is it, man. I don't really got much to say. I already announced everything I could. So thank you all so much for your support, and hopefully you guys will be here for the next part. It's your host, Seishi Samurai, and he's signing off. Peace, and have a lovely day.